Pet Sematary is directed by Kevin Kullish and Dennis Windmeyer and is another adaptation of the novel Pet Sematary written by Stephen King and is also kind of a remake of the Pet Sematary from the 80s. Now, with this being another Stephen King adaptation, there's definitely something exciting about that because regardless of how a Stephen King adaptation really is overall, usually take something away from it. There are really three different types of Stephen King adaptations. One is the fun cheese fest that really wasn't all that good, but you can kind of go back and watch it and have fun. The other is sort of the poorly acted film that's still got something to it in terms of the style, or it just turns out to be a damn masterpiece. I'm sad to say that this film actually has none of that. So let's dive into this. So right from the get-go, we are treated with a really nice overhead shot, and I was like, okay, that's a really nice shot. We're in. This looks like it's going to be a decent looking movie at the very least. Man, was I wrong. I think one of the big faults of this movie is there's nothing really exciting about its cinematography. It's not terrible. However, the way that the film is lit really doesn't help it any. It's almost too dark quite a bit of the time, and it really started to bug me after a certain point. I think that this film thought it can get away with the idea of it being centered around a family, seeing as how that's proven to work in the past. For example, last year's A Quiet Place did that very successfully. The Shining is another one that has done that incredibly successfully. And a personal favorite of mine is Signs. Mixing family drama into horror is actually a really good idea, and I'll give Pet Sematary credit on that end. However, the family has to be interesting, and the constant Lifetime made-for-TV movie feel that this film has really does not help it. I mean, the script by itself is just very, very awful. I actually took some notes here, and I do want to give you a line that was said in this film that really, really bothered me. So the family's going through a lot of bad stuff, right? And something that the husband says to the wife is, maybe we can throw a party. Yeah, he said that right in the middle of all these bad things happening. The first 75% of this film is terrible pacing. I was just so bored with it. I'm amazed that I was able to stay awake throughout it. Again, this goes back to the way that the film is lit, I think. It's just very dark and very bland. One thing this film does have going for it are definitely its practical effects, but when it tries to go into CGI, ooh, it's bad. It's very bad. The most interesting character in this film is the wife, played by Amy Seimetz, and that's not really saying a whole lot. Second to her, I would say, is Judd, played by John Lithgow. Now, I don't want to compare this to the original film, but we got to keep in mind that Judd is still kind of an iconic character. And don't get me wrong, John Lithgow did a good job. I think this is his best performance that I've seen from him in a while. But I think it's what the script decides to do with the character that really ruins it for me. A lot of the times he just kind of comes off as an ass, and that's not really Judd at all. I think that there was a level of Judd that really cared in the original Pet Sematary, at least, and I was missing that element from him entirely. Not to mention, he's just also a bland character, along with Jason Clarke, who plays the father and husband in this film. If you're going to make a horror movie with family drama, the family has to be interesting, and this family was not interesting at all. At one point, Judd talks Jason Clarke's character into burying his cat in Pet Sematary, and the cat, of course, comes back to life, as we all know, and he just kind of goes out to Judd and says, hey, we need to have a talk. That's terrible writing. I apologize because I think she's a new talent, but the young lady that played the daughter is awful in this film. She got on my nerves constantly throughout. Also, I won't give it away, but there's a twist in this film that I saw coming from a mile away, and it's really only a twist because they changed it from the original, but you could tell that they were trying to make it a twist. I think that this film also relied on its predecessor so much to keep this film afloat. It almost felt like if you didn't know the source material, you weren't going to enjoy a single piece of this. The scares alone in this film are just awful. There was one good scare throughout the entire film, and I'm going to give them the one good scare. There's also a flashback sequence that really came out of nowhere, and I found it to be incredibly abrupt and annoying. Then you get 75% of the way through the film, and the final act is the most exciting, as it usually should be. But the problem with that is the editing in the final act was incredibly choppy, and it just started to annoy me quite a bit. The conclusion also, which I won't give away, and I'm sorry if this is the way the book ended, but I found it to be incredibly dumb here, and I would have liked it even more had I actually cared about the characters in the first place, but this film gives you no reason to care about these characters. So guys, overall, Pet Sematary was just very boring and bland. I didn't see a necessity to have this adaptation. I'm going to go ahead and give Pet Sematary a D. Guys, thank you for tuning in to my review of Pet Sematary. I'm also going to be doing a review for Hellboy, so look forward to that. Please follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I'll be putting them in the description below. I do appreciate it. Also, hit that like button below and hit the subscribe button below. I appreciate that as well. I've been Don Martino, and this has been a review of Pet Sematary. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.